Hey, good morning everybody. It's Clint with CCUA. We're back for another VEG Out video. Today we are going to learn all about how to propagate plants. So we're all probably, well, at least some of us are familiar with how we start a plant from seed. We take the seed, put it in the soil, water, and then it grows. But there are some plants that grow better by taking parts of the live plant and replanting them in a new pot. So I have a few examples today. Here we have one of the most common houseplants, aloe. So this plant is a type of succulent, and generally succulents can be differentiated with their really large, thick leaves. So I've actually got three succulents here. I've got aloe, my Christmas cactus, and I'm not totally sure what this one is. Some sort of jade, maybe. And then two non-succulent plants. I've got a pothos, or devil's ivy, from my house. And then this one. And also, I'm unsure of what it's called. Sometimes when you get into plants, you just start sort of amassing a collection without asking too many questions. But this aloe, one reason it's such a popular houseplant is because it can be used to treat sunburns. It's got a really soothing gel on the inside of it. Once the leaves get big enough, you can actually crack them off, take the gel from inside, and use that to kind of soothe your sunburns. So we're just going to talk a little bit about how we're going to take these cuttings and repot them. Now I've already taken these off of the mother plants because they're so big I didn't want to haul all the pots out of my house and bring them. So I went ahead and already cut parts off. But for things like the pothos, the devil's ivy, when you are cutting off a chunk to repot, you can actually see there's these little bumps on the underside of the stem here. Those are actually root nodules. So we're going to want to make sure that these get buried, and those are going to grow into new roots for our plant. With aloe, once an aloe plant gets big enough, it's going to start sending off these little shoots. So these are just a couple. When I pulled off my plant, it's going crazy at my house. It's really needed thinned out, so got a little bit of that done. But you can actually see on the aloe too, it's got some little root nodules coming off of it. There's some there. On this one, you can see them there on the bottom. With a lot of succulents, you won't see roots. Like with the jade plant, there's no root on there. It will still grow, just harder to see. With the Christmas cactus, you can see the start of some roots. They're really tiny, little tiny hairs that come out of the joints between leaves. So let's go ahead and get started getting these potted up. I've just got some really tiny peat pots here. You could pot into something a little bit bigger. However, with houseplants, you want to make sure that you don't go too big too fast. So you want to start small, and then as the plant grows, you can put it into larger pots. So we'll start out with both those here. So I've got some potting soil. This is just your standard sort of garden variety, so to speak, potting mix. So we're just gonna put that in there. And it's really pretty simple. We just want to make sure that these root nodules get covered up. I'm gonna poke a little hole in there. And you just poke that in there. Then you want to pack the soil a little bit around it. A little bit more in there. And that's really all there is to it. You want to make sure that it is moist. We've got our little spray bottle here of water. And with pothos, you want to keep it out of direct sunlight. They really like the shade, which is part of the reason they make such a good houseplant. And then that'll start rooting and it'll grow right up. This one here, very similar. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the same pot. All you really got to do is just stick it in there, and eventually that'll take root and start growing. Now we've got our succulents over here. There's the other one. Succulents are a little bit trickier, but really not too bad at all. What I am going to do is I'm going to mix some sand in with my potting mix, and that's just going to help make sure that it has better drainage. Succulents really don't like to stand in water, which again can make them great houseplants because it's easy to forget about them for a little while and they don't mind too much. But a good rule of thumb is just about like 1 part potting mix, 1 part sand, just to make sure we've got good drainage. And you can get in there, mix it up. You might want to use a bigger bucket or pot at home. This little Tupperware is not quite big enough for the job here, but we're making it work. Here, I'll tell you what, we're outside, so we'll make a little bit of a mess here. I think that's all right. Let's get that nice and mixed up. Add a little bit more sand to it. Not too much though, this is looking pretty good. A little more fun anyway when you get to make a mess. We're going to add a little bit of water to it just to make sure it's moist. We don't want it sopping wet, but we don't want it so dry that the wind will pick it up and blow it away either. Alright, I think that's a pretty good mix. We can fill up our peat pot there. We'll start out with our aloe. So we've got this little guy here, and I'll show you this one just for the first part of this example. You want to make sure you pull off any old dead or rotting parts from your plant before you repot it. So we're just going to pick off some of these old dried up little leaf parts here. And see, this leaf right here is kind of sad and wilted, so we'll just get rid of that. Same with this one down here. Not super happy looking. And then just poke a hole down towards the bottom. Now this has got a super long stalk on it, so really we would want a bit deeper of a pot because you want it to be able to go all the way down, so that the crown right there, the bottom of the leaf and the top of that stalk is right at the soil line. But you can also see that that root is just so long, but we'll do the best with what we got right now. Put that on there, add a little bit more, and we'll just let it kind of hang over the side. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it'll do. The other one will be a little bit easier because it's smaller. So again, pull off any old dead stuff, and then you can just pot it right in there, kind of push down that soil to help keep it stabilized. We'll add a little bit more right around the base. And there you have a nice little aloe plant. With our aloe plant, we don't actually need to water it yet. We can wait a little bit. You can wait up to a week just to let it get settled and then give it a water. And then after that, you can take care of it just like a normal house plant. Now we've got 2 more examples here. I'm going to fill up another one of these cups. And these next 2 are pretty similar and small too, so I'm probably just going to put both of them right here in this pot. We've got our little jade here. You can see how it's got kind of a narrow part at the bottom where I pulled it off of the mother plant. And that can just go right in there. Just like that. Doesn't have to be fancy. You can put it right in the middle if you want. But since we're doing 2 plants in here, I'm going to put mine right over to the side. And the other one, the Christmas cactus, is the same. Just going to poke it down in the soil just a little bit. Just enough to keep it stable, to give those roots some soil contact. And you're good. I am going to give this one just a little bit of water because that soil just felt a little bit drier than the soil for our aloe. And there we have it. So you can see here, we've got, this one's not the best example, but this one's pretty good. This is good too. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new house plants from plants that we already had growing. So if you have some house plants at home, we would love to see if you choose to propagate them. If you do, go ahead and leave us a comment or send us a message. Show us what y'all are doing at home, and we will see you tomorrow.